Welcome to another episode of Josh Wonders Why. As usual, I'm here with Pastor Kelly, and we're here tonight to talk about love. Because we've got a lot to unpack, and Kelly's going to burst my bubble on a lot of things that I've believed were true over the past, over my lifetime.
Oh, maybe not everything.
Just trying to get the live. There we go.
Oh. Are we on?
We are. I'm trying to get the live feed up. Sorry. Let's see. Why is it not?
I know that's what happens to me on Monday mornings, and I can't get it to come up on my phone, so I can't check to see that my microphone's working, and then I'm just awkwardly.
I'll check it later. Sorry.
Yeah.
My phone is
I forgot my phone.
My phone is not cooperating with me. So if you're watching us, put stuff in the comments. We have a hard time with the technology here of giving comments or getting the comments, but feel free to put them in there. I will try, if I can find a good stop point, to try to get on the live feed on my phone and check your comments. But if you're watching us live, appreciate you being with us. Even if you're watching us after the fact, thanks for watching us and giving some time out of your day just to watch Josh Wonders Why. We like to just maybe discuss a variety of topics, nothing too dense, just to give you a break and maybe some piece from today's news or whatever.
Something else to think about?
Yeah.
Yeah, because right before we started, I was like, I'm so angry about this and this and this.
That'd be perfect topics to talk about, Josh Wonders Why, but I want to keep it more lighthearted for the most part.
Yeah, well, let us know if you want us to do, something that's not so light, if there's something that you want to hear us discuss that's a little more, I don't know, needy, disheartening.
If there's stuff in the news that is bothering you and you want to know what we should do as Christians to react to that, put them in the chat. We would love to get to them, and I think I finally got it now that we stalled long enough. I got it up.
All right.
Okay, so I should be watching the live feed. If you have any comments, put them in there. We'd love to get to them. So tonight, like I said, we'll talk about love. I felt Easter was just over a week ago, I think, right? Mm-hmm. It was 2 Sundays ago. Yeah,
yep.
Just over a week ago. And Easter's time we celebrate Jesus' resurrection and, God's, we'll say, great love for us. And there are 2 verses that stand out as I was looking for this. The first one is found in 1 John chapter 4, verses 9 through 10. And it says, "This is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love. Not that we love God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins." So we got that. And then we also have the famous verse, John 3:16. But as Kelly has taught me in the past, you can't throw in 16 without throwing in, you can't have 16 without throwing in 17, right? Because 17 is actually more important. So both those verses go, as you know, probably the first one, you could probably recite it by heart. "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him." So, looking at these verses and reflect on them from the Easter we just celebrated, maybe ponder what's so special about this love that God's talking about, right?
Can I just make a comment that when you read John 3:16, I thought, that just goes with what I talked about last Thursday on Digging Deep about our doubts and believing and not just believing in something as I believe that's true or that's not true, but to put your trust in, because that's what the word in Greek is. Put your trust in. It's like I'm going to act based on what I put my trust in.
Yes.
So, sometimes I think people try to make it difficult. If you want to become a Christian, you have to recite this sinner's prayer and do this and do this and do this. And really, it's just believe, put your trust in Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Yep.
So this is in the Bible, and I guess maybe another question, maybe a quiz for you. I didn't give you heads up on this, but I'm curious. Do you have a guess of how many times the word love is used in the New Testament?
Over 200 times.
You are correct. It's over 200 times.
We must have looked at the same article.
It is. So it is. It depends on the version.
But they're not all agape.
I know, we'll get to that. Yeah. I'm just talking about the English translations in love. The lowest, I guess, the King James Version actually has the lowest amount of mentions of love. It only mentions love 311 times in the New Testament. The one that mentions the most is, I believe, what is the NLT, the New Living Translation? It mentions it 645 times, so practically a little over double what the King James Version does.
In the King James Version, it uses the word charity
for love. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Okay. So it's used a bunch in the New Testament. But I guess the question for you watching us right now, how would you define love? If you're watching us, put in the comments. If you're watching us after we're live, put in the comments as well. I'm curious to see how you define love. And while you're putting those in the comments, a question for you, Kelly, because I know you have cats. Do you love your cats?
I love my cats.
Okay. I know you're married. I know you have a husband.
I agape my cat.
You agape your cat.
Unconditional love.
Do you love your husband? And I think he's watching, so yes. Okay. Do you love your cats the same way you love your husband?
Well, probably not, because my cats can be a real pain in the arse, and my husband's not so much.
Really?
So, yeah. So.
Do you have an example of how your cats have been a pain recently? Or are they just always a pain every day?
Like, I'm trying to eat, and the one is just climbing all over me and trying to get in my food, and or I'm drinking my coffee and he comes up and he bumps my arm, and I mean, it's part of having cats, but yeah, I mean, that's just kind of a joke. They can be a pain in the butt sometimes, and I don't really feel like Tony's a pain in the butt.
Well, that's good.
So it's different.
Good job, Tony. Yeah. So that's good. So yeah, I guess different kind of love. If I look at the dictionary definition of love, look at the dictionary, it has so many different definitions. It says it's a strong affection for another arising out of a kinship or personal ties. It's affection based on admiration or common interests. It's an intense feeling of deep affection. It's a great interest and pleasure in something. So there's so many different kinds of definition just for that one word in the English language. And I feel like, and this is I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. I feel like the English word for love really gets watered down. We overuse it for everything. For instance, I really love pizza. I could eat pizza for every meal pretty much every day of the week. That's my go-to food, just because it's perfect for every meal of the week. But I don't love pizza the same way I love my family. That'd be a little weird, right?
Yeah.
But so I feel like it gets overused, and I don't know if we just get desensitized to the word. So when we read the word love in the Bible, I don't know if it really is as impactful to us as it probably was for people maybe at the time that the Bible was written.
I don't know. There's a time when Jesus is talking to the Pharisees, and he says, "You love to have the best seats at the dinner," and it's agape.
Okay.
Yeah. So they used it kind of like we do in various forms as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're getting to that. So I guess in English we have one word, but it's got many definitions. And I believe the Greek language, the Greeks have various words for different types of love. And I was Googling it, and I know since you're a biblical scholar and you probably know more Greek than I do, Google's saying depending on where you search on Google, I found anywhere between 6 and 10 different types of love.
Right.
Did you find that?
Yeah. I found some I'd never heard of before.
I feel like maybe they're overlapping in a way too. I mean, I don't know if some of those are stretching the different types of love. Now, are all those, I guess the 6 to 10, are all those used in the Bible, or
no.
Okay. There are only about 4 that are used in the Bible, I think, or
where did I put that? Eros was not used in the Bible. Storge is not used in the Bible. Now, the opposite of storge is.
Really?
Yeah, but the word storge is not used in there. And then the only ones really that are used are philia and agape.
Oh, really? Those okay. When I was searching, I found that I thought eros and storge were also used in the Bible, but not in the original.
But they're just more common.
Okay.
I think like eros is more of a romantic love, and so you see that type of love in the Old Testament, like with the Song of Solomon, but of course that was Hebrew, and Hebrew just has one word for love. But so you got the idea of it, but not so much in the New Testament.
Okay, mostly just philia and agape. Mm-hmm. So what is the philia love?
Philia is brotherly love, like Philadelphia.
Okay.
That word is actually in there, Philadelphia. Used to express love between people, a relationship. 1 Peter 5:14, it says, greet one another with the kiss of love. And kiss is, the Greek word there for kiss is philema, and love is agape. So they put both of those in there.
So we got philia, which is the brotherly love, and then I've always considered agape to be different, as maybe this is the unconditional love that God and Jesus have for us, right? That's how that's used in some of the verses. That is that agape love.
Yes. Agape is most often used to describe the love God has for us because it's unconditional.
Okay.
But it's not only for that. And I discovered, much to Josh's dismay, that agape and philia are used interchangeably in the New Testament, in the Greek New Testament.
Okay.
Now, Jesus would have spoken Aramaic, which only has one word for love.
You really burst my bubble on this love. I assume there are multiple words for love.
Sorry, I didn't quite realize that either until you brought this topic and these questions, and I started doing research, and I had known that I'd kind of forgotten, because there's the story of Jesus reinstating Peter, and he says, "Peter, do you love me?" And Peter says, "Yes, I love you." And he asks him that question 3 times. The first 2 times Jesus uses the word agape. The third time he uses philia, which, you could read into that, oh, well, he's just, Peter doesn't love him with agape love, but that's not true, because agape and philia were just used interchangeably.
Yeah.
So they're similar, but one way of telling them apart that I found interesting, someone said that philia is you love some. Oh, no, wait a minute. I think I'm getting confused with something else. Well, I don't know where I put that. I'm just jumping all around in here.
That's fine.
So
I'm jumping around my questions.
Okay.
I'm not going in order.
All right. I found some Greek words for love that I'd never heard of.
Like what? What are the...
Ludus, playful love, flirtation, the excitement at the beginning of a relationship. Pragma, long-lasting love, continues to develop over years, like being in sync with your partner. Philautia, love of the self. And that can be healthy in like self-confidence, but it can also be negative in narcissism.
Okay.
Mania, obsessive love, possessiveness, jealousy, irrational emotions of attachment. But is that even love? I would just say that was being obsessive.
Is it a type of affection then? Are these all types of affection?
Well, they're all... I suppose some people think, I love him so much, and if he doesn't love me back, nobody gets to love him, and that's how some murders occur, So people would call that love, but I wouldn't. Okay. And then xenia, guest friendship. It's a Greek idea about hospitality and the moral obligation of being hospitable. But
and then you got so we didn't touch on this, but I think you said the eros love, that's more of like an erotic love or something. But then storge, what is that? That's like a parent-child relationship?
It's like a family. Oh, there it is. Love of family. It's not in the Bible, as I said, but the opposite of storge is used in Romans 1:31.
What's the opposite of storge?
It's like, I don't remember.
Oh, I thought you had it.
I didn't write it down. It was like something storge, like atypical or that kind of.
Sure. So I always thought the storge, whenever they talked about God as the Father, they would have used storge love as far as that relationship there.
Nope.
Okay. So long story short, there are multiple different words that the Greeks had for different types of love, but the ones that were used specifically in the New Testament were philia and agape. And I guess when the original authors of the New Testament, they would have written the original New Testament in Greek, right?
Yeah, it was Koine Greek. It was the everyday language of regular people, as opposed to classical Greek, which was a more difficult language. Jesus, like I said, spoke Aramaic. That was the common language of the Jews in the area of Galilee where he lived.
Okay.
He also would have known Hebrew, but they didn't really use that as conversation. That was used for, reading the Torah and so forth.
Yeah.
And he probably would have known Greek as well because it was like the primary language of the Mediterranean areas. So he would have known that. That's just not what he would have spoken in. But they used Koine Greek in the New Testament because it would have been widely understood as kind of a common language. So Jews and Gentiles would be able to read it.
So were they, I guess the authors, were they intentional for the types of love they did put in the New Testament? Like they put, I guess, so before you sort of burst my bubble, I assume that they would have intentionally said, we're going to use agape here, philia here, and the other types different places. But it sounds like they just used them interchangeably. It's just whoever was writing the verse at the time, right?
Yeah.
And they focus on those two loves versus the other loves that we listed, right? That's probably significant.
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, they could use love in the same way that we, like agape love, same way I love pizza, they could use it like that.
I love pizza.
Yeah, but, clearly it wouldn't have the same meaning or oomph as God's agape love for us.
Okay.
That unconditional love. I guess you love pizza unconditionally.
Depends on what toppings on the pizza.
Oh, see, that's it.
It's got conditions.
Yeah.
So, and I guess so going to that. So agape love. If I go back to the verse in Matthew where they asked Jesus, "What's the greatest commandment?" And Jesus said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind." That's the first and greatest commandment. The second is love your neighbor as yourself. My understanding is that the love mentioned in both in these verses, all the loves, is the agape, the unconditional love, right?
Yes.
But I guess it sounds like philia could also be considered unconditional love as well. So maybe it sort of takes, I guess, because there's always been, I know in past Bible studies I've been a part of and discussions, it's always like the agape love is that's the platinum love, and then there's other.
Yeah, it's not really like that.
It's not that platinum love anymore. It's
agape is not like superior. It's it's right there with filio, and like agape love. I think it was the difference between like eros and agape is that, or maybe it was filio, because filio is like more of a relational love. Like your best friend, and you love your best friend. And, and you may have unconditional love for your friend, but, if they like stab you in the back or something, you might not love them anymore in that kind of way. But like agape is just, God loves everyone with this kind of love.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how ugly you are or how horrible you've lived, God still loves you. And so I think maybe filio, some of the other loves are a little more conditional, based on a relationship, and maybe not as unconditional, I guess.
Okay. So that still sets agape a little bit ahead or above, right? If it's truly unconditional.
Oh, here it is. Matthew 5:43, 46. Now I have to look that up.
So there's a question. I guess you can look that up first. And Susan asking a question. There is something Bethel UMC had an agape circle. Do you know what that is? Or
Well, I assume it's United Methodist Women.
Okay.
Because you would, like a church could have different women's circles, like groups that would get together for Bible studies or something, but then you were all part of the United Methodist Women of that church.
Okay.
And United Methodist Women are all part of District United Methodist Women Conference and all over the world, although they're not called United Methodist Women.
But the small
Women
group was called an Agape Circle?
Well, it was called a circle.
Oh, circle.
You could have any name.
Okay.
Yeah. So... Okay, what does this say here? Oh, you have heard it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And it's agape, love for your enemies. So agape is love for someone no matter what they look like or what they do. It's unconditional. But eros is love motivated by attraction or desire for a person because you think they're beautiful or you admire them in some way, so it's like, there's some people you just don't click with.
Yeah.
Some people irritate you, and so you don't love them like you love your family or love your best friend or,
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting.
That's what I struggle with the most, I'll be honest, with the whole agape love, and I think that defines it is that's really the love you're supposed to have for people that persecute you.
Yes.
And that's the tough love to have is, I gotta love people that disagree with me or I disagree with unconditionally, and I struggle with that one the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
As do everybody. As does everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, in 1 John, it says, we love because God first loved us, and if you you can't love God and hate your neighbor, that sort of thing, and that's agape love, and that's like a love of the will.
Yeah,
you decide that you're going to love people, whether you like them or not. You're going to care about what happens to them, but with filio, with other kinds of love, it's more of a conditional, I love you because you're my friend and you're really special to me. And I don't have to will myself to love you.
Yeah.
Because, of the person that you are. But yeah, if it's my enemy, I have to will that kind of love because there's nothing that's going to attract me to somebody who's being mean to me. So.
And Tony's saying, love is what I got. And he said, I said, remember that. That's from a song, I think, from Sublime, I believe. So, the, was I going to go there? So the love that's in the Bible, that this agape love, they say, it feels like, at least when it gets showcased in the news, I don't feel like Christians are doing the best at showcasing this agape love. At least what gets shown in the news, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think we're doing a good example of what God and Jesus call us to do as far as showing love to everybody unconditionally. Mm-hmm. It's more like, unless you agree with me, I'm not going to love you.
I'm not going to care about you.
Yeah, care about you.
Yeah, that's what I always think of, I can love people and care what happens to them, but I may not like them. I may not want to go on vacation with them, and so there's that difference. And the other thought just left my brain.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But so going back to the original question, with Easter as we celebrate God's great love for us, and basically showing that He loved us unconditionally without, no matter what, to send His Son as atoning sacrifice for our sins. Mm-hmm. And if we go to the chapter in Matthew, His expectation is, God loves you this way, love God the same way, but also love your neighbor the same way. And that's basically the Bible in a nutshell. Just if you can follow that,
I know,
you will follow everything, right? It's that simple.
It's that simple, and I don't know.
But people tend to overcomplicate it. Let's put the Ten Commandments in the schools. Let's just put this in the school,
that's
right?
what Tony's always like, why don't you just put that one? You'll save money.
That's what I heard
it's shorter.
Yeah, it's shorter.
You don't have to have as many letters. So, okay, I found this really interesting verse, though. This is in Romans 12. And it's got like 3 different types of love in it, which I found was really interesting. Let love be genuine, hate what is evil, hold fast to what is good, love one another with mutual affection, outdo one another in showing honor. So, love one another with mutual affection. Mutual affection is philostorgos. So it's kind of like a combination of storge and philia. So that's like affectionate. That word means affectionate. Love one another, agape, with mutual affection. And then there's Philadelphia is in there. And then also there's a word for contribute to the needs of the saints, extend hospitality to strangers. Hospitality is philoxenia. So you've got the filio and the xenia and put them together and you have hospitality among friends, I guess. I just found that was interesting.
That's interesting.
All these different kinds of love. in this one little part. So,
well, interesting.
That's fun.
So, I appreciate you coming and burst my bubble because I had a whole intention of trying to make the point that agape was set different than philia, and I feel it sounds like they use it all, interchangeably. But I think there is still some distinguishing differences, maybe to apply. Just as we look at these verses and see, what is so special about God's love that's different than maybe man's love, and the main thing is He loves you unconditionally.
Yeah, and I think that is the thing with agape, is that it's unconditional. It means that I'm going to do what I can to take care of you, and there's like an action behind it. It's like you can't have agape love for somebody and, walk away from them when they need something.
Yeah.
That sort of love.
Yeah.
So.
Well, very good. Well, thanks for helping us unpack this discussion on love. Hopefully you all watching this found it interesting, or at least got some new tidbits of information.
Don't forget to practice philoxenia.
Philoxenia, which one is that?
Philoxenia, that's the hospitality word. I like it.
And if you're still watching this, if there are any topics you'd like us to cover, we try to keep this more lighthearted over the past couple months because I think the news and social media posts bog us down. But if there are any more intense topics you'd like us to unpack, just as far as, hey, how should Christians respond to this situation or this situation, let us know. We have no problem unpacking that. We're just trying to keep it lighthearted for now, but we can go into depth if we need to.
Yeah, because sometimes you need to talk about those things among friends, and people who love you unconditionally and aren't going to call you names.
Yeah.
Or we're not going to yell and argue, but we'll maybe unpack some of that if we need to.
Yeah. So if there's anything that's on your mind that you'd like to chat about here, just let us know. You can either send us a private message or just post it anonymously on the group, and we can get to that in a future discussion of Josh Wonders Why.
Yeah, but not till after I get back from vacation.
That's right. So we'll be, the next 2 Mondays, we'll not have a Josh Wonders Why. We may have it later in the week, that week, but we're going to play that one by ear depending on how Kelly feels. But we will be live this Thursday for Digging Deep before you go on vacation, right?
Yep.
Do you know what you're talking about? I promise you I won't ask you that question. I need to remember not to ask you a question because you have too many things going on in your head.
It's probably, sometimes a funny thing happens on the way to the sermon and it's all different. But focusing on how, God is found in simple, ordinary ways and simple, ordinary things.
Okay.
So, we'll be talking about that.
So there you go. Tune in Thursday right here at 7 o'clock, and we'll be live with Digging Deep. So until then, appreciate you watching us, and we'll see you in the comments.
Bye.